It's midnight, I'm Anita and you're watching Nightline, news making the headlines. Refusing to consider Hamas as terrorists, Malaysia receives 3 démarche notices from the US. Also, threats against PM are real and should not be taken lightly, says IGP. We begin with our headlining story. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim revealed that Malaysia has received 3 démarche or diplomatic notices from the United States over the country's stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict and Hamas. The Prime Minister said 2 notices were sent by the US Embassy to Wisma Putra on October 13th and 30th, while another was sent to Malaysia's ambassador to the US, Datuk Seri Muhammad Nazri Abdul Aziz, in Washington on October 18th. According to Anwar, 2 of the notices requested Malaysia to change its firm stance, especially in refusing to consider Hamas as a terrorist group, while the other involved Muhammad Nazri being summoned by the US Department of State to explain Putrajaya's firm stand on the Israel-Palestine conflict. However, Anwar reiterated that the country would not bend to the diplomatic pressure.
Dan saya tegaskan bahawa Malaysia kekal dengan pendirian bebas kita, pertimbangan kemanusiaan kita, dan menganggap pencerobohan itu haram dari segi undang-undang dan kaedah antarabangsa. Politik dan kecelaruan berlaku ini bukan sekitar bulan lalu. Ini sudah berlarutan berdekade.
He said this during the Prime Minister's question time at the Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday. Last Wednesday, during the Palestinian Solidarity Rally at the Axiata Arena, Anwar revealed that he was threatened by Western powers for his criticism of the Israeli government following the war in Gaza. In a related development, Anwar said that Malaysia is checking with several Asian countries, including China, to know their stand on a potential boycott of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC Economic Leaders Week, to be held in San Francisco next month. At the same time, he said Malaysia supports Turkey and Saudi Arabia's proposal to hold an extraordinary meeting of the leaders of Islamic countries to discuss the Palestinian issue in more depth. Meanwhile, Anwar reminded the public not to politicize the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or allow it to be used as a tool to create disharmony among the multiracial society in Malaysia. He said the people of various ethnicities in the country should view the conflict as a humanitarian issue affecting Palestinians who are struggling to break free from Israeli occupation.
Saya juga ingin mengambil kesempatan ini, Tan Sri Yang Ketua, untuk menggesa seluruh rakyat Malaysia tanpa mengira kaum dan agama untuk melihat ini dari segi kaedah sejarah dan kemanusiaan, dan janganlah jadikan isu ini sebagai isu yang membedakan sikap kita terhadap apa itu kemerdekaan.
Anwar added that although the issue of Palestine is indeed very close to the Muslim community, it also involves humanitarian issues that need to be exposed to the general public. He also said while Malaysia upholds the principle of neutrality, it does not apply when it concerns injustice and the deaths of thousands of children. The threats made against Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim are real and should not be taken lightly or labelled as a ploy for personal gain. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein stated that he, together with his deputy Datuk Seri Ayub Khan Maidin Pichai and the heads of relevant departments within the Federal Police, are addressing the issue of the Prime Minister's safety. This was due to the Prime Minister's outspokenness on the humanitarian issue in Palestine and the displacement of the Gaza people. Razaruddin does not rule out the possibility that the Prime Minister himself has more detailed information about the threats, but chose not to disclose it to avoid offending the countries that shared the sensitive information.
Ugutan ini mungkinnya saya berpendapat dan kita akan try untuk sahkan daripada maklumat-maklumat pihak SB dengan dia punya counterpart di luar negara. Dalam keadaan politik sekarang, dalam keadaan negara sekarang ini, apa maklumat tentang espionage ke, tentang keselamatan Perdana Menteri ke, tentang ekonomi ke, mungkin kita akan bercakap dengan cara tatap muka. Pun kita tak akan menggunakan telefon dan semua untuk menjaga kerahsiaan.
On October 25th, Anwar had disclosed that he received threats from European parliamentarians over Malaysia's position on the Palestine-Israel conflict, but he stressed that he was undeterred by it. He also said he would explain the threats from European politicians at a later time, refraining from disclosing their identities or the specific European Union nations involved.
Tetapi pada pihak polis, sabotaj ke arah ekonomi ni, kita pun memang mendapatkan maklumat pasal kita pun daripada pihak SB yang ini memang ada cawangan dia yang melihat tentang sabotaj ekonomi apa. Tapi yang lebih mustahak pada saya juga adalah daripada segi keselamatan nyawa Perdana Menteri Malaysia. Sekiranya apa-apa berlaku pada Menteri Malaysia, orang pertama yang akan malu adalah saya.
Razaruddin also did not rule out the possibility of foreign spy agencies or local elements conspiring with them within this country, which pose a risk to the safety of the Prime Minister. He highlighted as an example the murder case of the 35-year-old Palestinian lecturer and Hamas member Dr. Fadi Muhammad al-Bash, who was gunned down in Kuala Lumpur in 2018, which had been linked to the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad.
Kalau imam boleh ditembak mati disebabkan dia ni mungkin specialist on bom ke, specialist on software ke, specialist on tracking ke, boleh ditembak mati di setapak. Apa akan berlaku pada Perdana Menteri yang lantang bercakap dengan isu-isu Palestin ini?
The top cop also said that the Prime Minister has been advised to limit his public appearances, while his personal security has been beefed up, especially when in public. In the West Bank, Zionist forces struck approximately 300 targets in the Gaza Strip, including anti-tank missile and rocket launch posts beneath tunnels, which are a primary focus as Israeli troops push deeper into Gaza. However, Hamas claimed that they have destroyed several tanks and resisted the Zionist regime's advancement into the territory. In the meantime, the director of the Indonesian hospital in Gaza said the Jabalia refugee camp has been completely destroyed by Israeli bombardment, with 50 Palestinians killed and 150 others left injured. According to witnesses, Israeli forces also bombed Gaza overnight in air, sea and ground attacks, hitting northwestern areas of the coastal enclave where Israeli troops were operating on the ground. The relentless overnight Israeli air raids also resulted in nearly 40 casualties, with Rafah and the Al-Zawaidah area in the central Gaza Strip being the most heavily affected. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization, WHO, said a public health catastrophe is imminent in Gaza due to overcrowding, mass displacement and damage to water and sanitation infrastructure. To date, the death toll both in Gaza as well as in the West Bank has now surpassed 8,525, including 3,542 children, while 21,543 others have been left injured.
Mayat tersebut tidak mempunyai kepala, bergantung kepada arahan yang diterima daripada suara tersebut dan tulisan-tulisan. Arahan itu diterima daripada Tuhan.
Tertuduh didapati menghidap penyakit skizofrenia.
Penyakit mental yang serius.
Kes ini adalah tragedi. Sedih.
Still on the bulletin. In Kelantan, police seized 521 kilograms of shabo worth 17.2 million ringgit during 5 raids conducted around the state on October 25th. Bukit Aman Narcotics Criminal Investigation Department, or NCID Director, Datuk Sri Muhammad Kamaruddin Maddin, said 8 men, including a Thai national aged between 20 and 54, were also nabbed during the operation.
Modus operandi yang digunakan sindiket ini adalah menjeluk masuk bekalan dadah dari Thailand melalui jalan darat dan seterusnya dadah ini diedarkan untuk pasaran tempatan terutamanya di sekitar Lembah Kelang. Kita percayai sindiket ini telah bermula sejak awal Mei tahun 2023.
Kamaruddin said police also seized 5 vehicles, adding that one of the suspects tested positive for benzo-type drugs, while the rest tested negative. Initial investigations revealed the Thai national had acted as the syndicate's coordinator in the neighbouring country. It was also believed that the syndicate's network extended to Myanmar, and authorities are currently tracking down the syndicate's remaining members. 5 of the suspects were also found to have previous criminal records. All of them have been remanded for a week until November 1st to facilitate investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act. A group of up to 15 My Airline employees have filed a police report against the troubled carrier over unpaid salaries. The group claimed they have been facing significant financial hardships after the airline failed to pay them their salaries for the past 2 months. Malaysian Trades Union Congress MTUC Secretary-General Kamarul Baharin Mansoor, who accompanied the employees, also criticised My Airline for its unprofessionalism and urged the government to conduct a thorough investigation into the company.
Bila mana mereka tak dapat gaji, mereka sekarang ni sedang cari kerja lain dan ada yang bekerja lain. Jadi status mereka itu macam mana? Sama, kalau syarikat kata bahawa mereka ini masih lagi bekerja, kita harap gaji itu dibayarlah. Kalau mereka ini diberhentikan, keluarkan surat penamatan itu. Itu biar clear.
Kamarul also called upon the government to intervene and ensure the workers' salaries are paid. He also urged the government to investigate the alleged failure of the company to pay the Workers' Employees Provident Fund, EPF, and Social Security Organisation, SOCSO contributions since May, despite deductions on their payslips. In Sabah, a man was nabbed by police for trying to steal a car with 6 school children still inside the vehicle in Kundasang on Tuesday. The incident occurred in front of a grocery shop at Kampong Pinosuk at about 5 p.m. Ranau Police Chief DSP Simeon Nomudin said the school children were rescued after authorities, aided by members of the public, intercepted the suspect as he attempted to drive away with the stolen car along with the victims. Several videos of the incident also went viral on social media, showing the suspect struggling with policemen to evade arrest. Fortunately, none of the children were harmed during the ordeal. Authorities said investigations are still ongoing under the Penal Code for vehicle theft and kidnapping. Many, if not most, of the in-demand and high-paying jobs in the market are related to science, technology, engineering and mathematics, or STEM. Still, interest in these subjects isn't exactly high, despite their importance in the country's development. So how do we increase participation in STEM? FMT's Natasha Bust finds out.
STEM: science, technology, engineering and mathematics. For many students, these subjects are their worst nightmare. But you won't find many complaining about the byproducts of these subjects. After all, life in this day and age would be impossible without STEM. This is why countries around the world, including ours, place great emphasis on STEM subjects. In Malaysia, the government has sought to boost the competencies of teachers and raise interest in STEM through learning activities. And it seems to be working.
Sehingga Ogos 2023, data KPM menunjukkan bahawa peratusan enrolment murid STEM telah menunjukkan peningkatan daripada 40.95% pada tahun 2021 kepada 45.73% pada tahun 2023.
For Yunus Yassin, the president of the Association of Science, Technology and Innovation, this is good news.
It's not easy to achieve a 5% increase in a macro scale like this. So it's an amazing achievement. So my answer would to continue what you're doing. Whatever is it that you're doing, continue.
And he's right. Malaysia has always struggled with low STEM participation rates. In June, National STEM Association President Noraini Idris said that there is a shortage of STEM graduates. And in some areas, the problem is more pronounced than others. For example, Malaysia's engineer-to-population ratio is 1 to 170 compared to the 1 to 100 ratio in developed countries. And having numbers in the STEM field is vital for the economy.
What drives the economy is science and technology, and today even more so. So therefore, we need STEM graduates to be able to help drive the economy.
Former Pematang Power MP Nurul Izzah Anwar also says that STEM is vital to boost innovation and tackle global challenges. And the government recognizes this. That's why it's ramping up efforts to boost STEM knowledge. Since 2018, a national association has been tasked with leading STEM activities across all educational levels. Additionally, there's a mentor-mentee program that allows university students to mentor school students. But Nurul Iza believes more can be done.
The Education Ministry can provide training and resources for teachers to integrate technology into STEM. The Ministry can also facilitate partnerships between teachers and professionals working in STEM. This involves inviting guest speakers, organising field trips to STEM-related workplaces, or arranging for professionals to mentor students.
Natasha Bust, FMT for Nightline.
The first HIV case in Malaysia was recorded in 1986. Today, some 70,000 people in the country live with HIV. Despite medical advancement and increased awareness, many people with HIV and AIDS continue to face discrimination in all facets of life. One NGO is looking to change that. FMT's Danish Rajareza has the report.
Beware, AIDS kills. AIDS is a killer. We've all seen posters worded this way along with grim images. With messages as scary as this, it's no wonder many are fearful of HIV and AIDS. Now, it is true that AIDS, a complication of HIV, is indeed life-threatening. But a lot has changed since the world came to know about HIV and AIDS. For one, there is a better understanding of the disease and treatment has improved too. But for many living with HIV and AIDS, some things haven't changed. The stigma of the disease sees them being shunned by society and discriminated against. A 2020 Health Ministry study found that 3 out of 4 Malaysians exhibited some form of stigma or discrimination towards people living with HIV. Sometimes the discrimination can even come from the group that HIV and AIDS patients rely on the most, the healthcare industry. Azman Dawood, who has HIV, said he once overheard healthcare workers talking about his illness while undergoing thyroid surgery. So what can be done to end discrimination? Selangor Pengasih Chairman Jaafar Dawood says the key lies in consistent messaging from both the public and private sectors.
Program ni hanya sedikit, dia tidak berterusan. Jadi contoh kalau buat World AIDS Day, buat International AIDS Memorial Day, itu one off lah. So dia tidak consistently terus menerus program tu kan. So orang mudah lupa dan tak ada memberi kesan lah.
Pengasih, which was founded and run by former addicts, tackles stigma in one simple yet effective way, through handshakes. They hope that by shaking hands with ministers and other public figures, they can dispel fears that the disease is easily transmittable. The organization also made it a point to show that people with the disease are capable of doing even more than those who aren't, from scaling Mount Kinabalu to cycling from Perlis to Singapore.
Mereka ingat orang yang HIV ini dah nak mati. So hari ini perkara itu sudah berubah dan kita ada dalam 30-40 tahun punya orang yang hidup dengan HIV pun ada hari ini. Sihat.
Azman knows very well that HIV doesn't stop anyone from living a healthy life.
Dia ingat orang ada HIV ni macam zombie. Padahal kalau saya tak cakap saya ada HIV, orang tak tahu. Saya sihat. Lagi angkat weight lagi apa semua kan.
The 47-year-old believes that another solution to combat discrimination is empathy and compassion.
Kita belajar antara satu sama lain. Jadi tak perlulah kita nak judging orang kan. Tak perlu kita nak blame orang apa semua sebab manusia semua buat salah.
Danish Rajareza, FMT for Nightline.
Coming up next, 2 killed in Australian bushfire. News on the foreign front when we return. Stay tuned. Japan, police have detained a suspected gunman who holed up in a post office on Tuesday with several hostages after wounding 2 others in an earlier shooting at a hospital. It was earlier reported that 2 women were taken captive by the man in the city of Warabi on Tuesday afternoon local time. One was later released while the second was freed after police rushed in and detained the suspect. Both the women are said to be unharmed. It was believed that the suspect was earlier involved in a shooting at a hospital in the neighbouring city of Toda and then fled the scene. Officials said 2 people were slightly wounded after shots were apparently fired from the street into the hospital. 2 people were killed and dozens of homes destroyed in deadly bushfires raging across Australia's northern Queensland state as firefighters travel from across the country and from New Zealand to try to contain the out-of-control blazes. In the southeastern part of Queensland, residents were under evacuation orders due to 2 massive bushfires, where at least 45 homes have been destroyed and 2 people killed since last week. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, during his visit to the affected region, referred to the fires as devastating. He also pledged additional federal support for an estimated 42,000 claims for assistance arising from the destruction. The early onset of the fire season comes as Australia recorded its driest September on record, with forecasts of months of scorching weather and reduced rainfall. We're back with sports news now. Football. Argentina's Lionel Messi won the 8th Ballon d'Or of his remarkable career at a glittering ceremony in Paris, while Spain's World Cup winning star, Aitana Bonmati, took the women's prize.
Lionel Messi.
Inter Miami's Messi led his country to World Cup glory last year as he lifted the trophy for the first time and won the Golden Ball Award for the best player of the tournament in Qatar. It was the crowning moment of his astonishing career, and it allowed him to see off stiff competition, in particular from Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe, to take the award on the stage of the Châtelet Theatre in Paris. Meanwhile, Barcelona midfielder Bonmati lifted the women's award for the first time as she helped Spain to maiden World Cup glory in August. When Nightline returns, 2 killed, 3 injured in Johor Bahru crash. See you after the break. Still on Nightline. In Johor, 2 men died while 3 others were injured after the car they were travelling in crashed into a road divider during the early hours of the morning on Tuesday. The accident occurred along Jalan Bukit Impian Senai in Johor Bahru at about 3:15 a.m. A team of 20 firemen were deployed to the scene and found the 5 friends pinned inside the vehicle. The rescuers then used special tools to extricate them. However, 2 of the victims, identified as N. Katiravan and M. Arvindran, aged 20 and 23, were pronounced dead at the scene by a medical officer. Their bodies were handed over to the police for further action, while the injured victims were sent to the Sultanah Aminah Hospital for treatment. The cause of the crash is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. As we wrap up Nightline this time around, let's take a look as 3 astronauts of China's Shenzhou 16 mission returned safely back to Earth on Tuesday after completing their 5-month stay aboard the country's Tiangong space station. The trio hailed the mission as a success, a resounding success, shortly after landing. With that, I'm Anita. Thank you for watching and be well, Malaysia.